So, before NA starts, I wanted to talk about the scout thing. Because I'm not really understanding why they're swapping out scout. If I'm being so honest. I don't really get it. So there was a lot of chatter about this. And a lot. So this is crayon stick on it, which I'll get to. But I feel like this whole situation fell really hard into recency bias. Because Scout was part of the team when they were absolutely owning, right? Like, and if you look at these games, like, I just randomly pick games. Scout was very good, bro. And he was very good at pick in particular, okay? So Mo and Krill does great, right? Even in games they lose, like he's doing okay on the Krill. They kind of trolled this game. And then they put him on even stuff like GT. Like GT, when GT strong, I think Scout can play GT. This game is Paradox. Obviously, what Scout was kind of known for was his Paradox. His bebop was pretty good too. But I would say, all in all, he was very, very good at the Paradox. And then he would try to play stuff like Viper, because Viper was like pseudo pick with the bola for a while there. He would go into shit like Holiday, who was actually pretty good at as well. Holiday obviously got nerfed out of the meta. Pretty good Holiday player. And I just want to go over these games, because this is like over the last 6 months, right? Because Scout played for Melee Creeps for 7 months. And I feel like when I listen to all the chatter right now, it's very related to like recent. Paradox, not a great game, but played okay. His bebop popped the fuck off this game. This is against Floormen a couple months ago. Paradox does really well. This is with DMB, obviously, back then. Bird with Clock. Put him on bebop, pops off. Again, Holiday, when Holiday was still meta, pops off, right? Just one last game, because this is a month ago. So this is right before shit started hitting the fan, right? And then they started putting him on Dynamo. When the kind of like Dynamo Calvin shit started becoming more meta. Does really well. 3-7-19. 2-4-7. And then this series, they just like literally hard put him on Dynamo. But I think this series, even though they won, was a really good example of the kind of mindset shift they swapped, where they kind of started wanting to put Scout on support, right? And then this was also a weird meta, because like Graves was so good and Fishcake was playing the Graves and stuff like this. You know, fucking the McGinnis was super broken for a patch or two. But this is right before the Money the Clock series, where people kind of started to be like, this was kind of like the beginning of the end, right? And what is Scout playing? Scout's on Abrams. Scout is on Bebop. Died a lot this game, but you know, against Bunny with Clock, these are always like heavy kill games, like 44-35. You know, that's just kind of how those series are going to go against Bunny with Clock. And then they lose the series, right? Keep going. Leviathan at the Deadlock EU Invitational. They are out really early. They put Scout on Silver. They put Scout on Silver again. He has 2 really bad games, right? And then they play FPS Lounge later in the tournament. What is Scout on? Abrams has a bad game. But they put him on Yamato. Has like an okay game. Still dying a lot though, right? So as you keep going down this stuff, this is a month ago, right? This is when Floorman's kind of like on the rise. They add Demov to the roster. What are they putting Scout on? Sinclair. Actually does pretty good this game. This is pretty high KP for Sinclair. They put him on Paradox. He has a terrible game, right? So why I'm like pointing out all these games in like chronological order is because you can kind of just start to see the shift on, they're like, okay, they put you back on Dynamo. They have a good game. You go down here. They put him on Viscous. Plays okay. But like, nothing like crazy. They put him on Ivy. Does okay. Nothing crazy. And you can just kind of see as time goes on. This is when they lost the challenger match, the Floormen. Scout, pretty rough game on the Viscous. I wouldn't say anyone really played good this game, though. They kind of got rolled. Week ago, they get O2'd by Floormen. What is he on? Oh, this one Popper subbed in, actually. This is without Do, but So this is actually a good one to focus on. They don't have Do, right? And Scout is still getting put on like Sinclair and then Sinclair. And he has like a okay game and then I would say a bad game on Sinclair, right? And then this is the last series last week before it gets dropped. They put Scout on Viscous and then they put him on Abrams. And he has a bad game on Abrams and a bad game on Viscous, right? So I think forcing Scout onto playing support was not a great idea. But I think the broader problem, I don't really think, is Scout. I think they kind of have a problem with their systems, right? And then now I kind of want to like go over some clips to kind of like show that, right? So this was John with Liz 2 months ago, right? And then he had to say this about like draft and stuff they do.
Is that what we're used to?
Do you think you're the same player without Saya? Out of curiosity.
Yeah. But
Okay.
Saya is like, he's the freaking tactician of this game. I don't even know. He's like, his brain is a very interesting thing. Like, probably one of a kind. Like the way he thinks about the game, he just understands everything. Like he will have like the best reads of like all time. He like as soon as he reads patch notes, he's like, oh, this is the meta now. Boom. He just knows it. Like without even playing the game, he just knows.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think we just complement each other very well because we just like if everyone knows like what to do and like how to do it, it's like it's pretty free. I mean, you just kind of play the game and how it's meant to be played. You know, in our eyes, I guess.
In our eyes, I guess, right? Okay. When I hear that statement, I hear two different things, right? I hear Saya's the tactician, and Saya is just knows meta reads, knows characters, all this stuff. Which for the most part, I don't think is really wrong. I think Saya is really smart about the game. I think he knows this patch that Abrams is still like pretty good. I think he has a good read on the Dynamo when the Dynamo came out. But I think what started to happen was towards the end of the reign, I shall say, is they kind of didn't really have a style that they were playing in meta-wise, which was what Melee Creeps was always doing. They were kind of picking their own stuff, but it started to hit this point where it's like, and you know, Dew's subbing in here and stuff, and like it gets a little weird in the last couple of weeks, right? But there was this definite shift of we want Saya to play pick and we want Scout to play supports, right? And my problem with that was pick was weak for a while, but then as you saw with stuff like the Doorman, like Doorman was just strong, right? And they had Idol playing it, and they had a bunch of other people kind of like swapping, I wouldn't really say roles, but like swapping kind of like their main hero pool to try to like fit what was going on. But all in all, they were kind of like, even they would have good games on the stuff, right? So this was the Challenger series before the Floorman series, before this series. So they're prioing it, and then it gets banned out in this series. Or no, they pick it with Ido, right? They pick it with Ido. They do good, but they lose the game. And then I'm pretty sure it gets banned out in the series or something. But then they're kind of going back to like the Sinclair stuff. They're picking Sinclair a lot. And they're forcing Scout to play Sinclair. Because I think in their head, the meta read is that Sinclair is just really good and we should be top 3, right? They were one of the first teams to be picking Sinclair in top 3. Which I don't think was a bad read. I think Sinclair was a pretty good hero. But when I hear stuff like the John interview, it kind of just sounds like I'm sure people give their input, but when I hear stuff like this, it just makes me think that Saya kind of has the final say in a lot of stuff. And I think that is exemplified the most when Saya kind of starts moving off the support role and moves into pick, right? I think that is kind of weird that happened to the team. And like, maybe they thought that was best. Maybe the team thought that was the best. But if I'm Scout, right? And I'm playing all these heroes, I'd get kind of cheesed by that. Personally, I'd be like, bro, you guys keep putting me on these heroes that are just like mediocre at best in a role I don't play, and I'm kind of getting screwed over. And I think that's kind of what Crayon was talking about in this clip, which I kind of want to talk. I don't 100% agree with Crayon. It says here, by the way, but I kind of wanted to throw this out there.
It's okay. Who did Ranger replace that BL1? Because it wasn't Scout. The team looked good, and it has Scout on it. Who did they replace that game? Let me know. Oh, what? They replaced Sai that game. Oh, so Sai was out, and Scout was in, and Ranger was in. Oh, but the team did good and beat FPN Lounge. Oh, that's interesting. I'm not going to say anything, though, but... I mean, I'm not going to say anything, though.
Okay, like, I hate this shit where it's like you're saying it, but not saying it, but whatever.
Listen. Y'all can pick up the piece. On cuck rolls, okay? You made a change. Scout, minus Scout, plus Ranger. They got the coach to replace the player. They got GG Reddick to replace Austin Reeves. Scout is the scapegoat I fear. The problem is that they put Scout on cuck rolls, okay? Scout, literally, I remember Scout's prime, when he played Paradox and Bebop and shit, he was literally smurfing every game. He would actually, like, drop fucking nukes. But, like, what happened was that the characters he played suck, and then they kept putting on worse and worse heroes. Like, basically, they're like, yo, bro, you used to play good for us, so now we're gonna give you shit and shit and shit. Like, he's gonna look bad if you give him shit and shit and shit, bro. They gave him some dog-ass characters that he doesn't play, and that aren't even good either. The only good character he played that he was bad at was Sinclair. Sinclair is literally the only good character he played. Answer me this, okay? Who did Ranger replace in that BL1? Just saying. Who did Ranger replace that BL1? Because it wasn't Scout. The team looked good, and it has Scout on it. Who did replace?
Okay, so you're gonna keep talking about this?
It's almost like if you pick good heroes for your players, then, like, they'll look good. And when you give them the poop from a platter and say, hey, yo, make something happen with this, they look like shit. That's the problem. They look like shit because you give them dog shit. That's what it is.
So that's the part with Crayon I agree with. I think this, like, pushing Saya out thing and, like, Saya's, I think that's fucking stupid, in my opinion. I don't think that's very, like, you're just kind of ignoring what Saya brings to the table, especially when we hear stuff what John said, right? Where it's like, he's a very strong voice in draft. He has a very clear idea of how to play the game. But I think, all in all, it's just kind of weird how it went down, where Scout just kind of got pushed farther and farther, and then he gets dropped for Ranger. Now, the thing about Ranger is, Ranger's a really good player. Ranger's really fucking good. When Ranger was playing the game, he was, like, a very, very good player, right? And the other thing is, Ranger plays a lot of different shit. Like, he's known for his support. Like, he plays Mo. Where is he in here? He plays Pick Hayes before other people were playing, like, Pick Hayes. Right? He plays Drifter. He plays Holiday. Where is he in here again? He played Doorman. Like, he didn't have a great Doorman game, but they kind of just got pissed stomped in this game. Right? He's playing Kelvin. So, Ranger does, all in all, have a bigger pool than Scout does. And, like, I actually would say Ranger's probably, like, a better player than Scout. So, I can totally understand, like, if that is the reason, then you should just accept that Ranger's the better player and you want Ranger to come in. But I think dropping Scout at the time they did was very awkward, because literally 4 weeks ago, Ido said this on a Legend interview.
I'm, like, a big believer of, like, not having roster changes. So having these roster changes, I'll see, like, over the last, like, literally, like, 5 months or so, since I've been a Melee Creeps, these roster changes are constantly, I feel like, setting these teams back. Even, like, yeah, I think, even, like, D-Mal, for example, for Floorman, he just got picked up and they won last week. Even, I think, in the long term, I'm not sure how that will fare, because, I mean, he's from Europe, and
He's not wrong about this, by the way. D-Mal has already talked about he wants to go back to EU, but
I just think what's most important right now is creating that core roster, you know, bringing it into when the game actually announces orgs and stuff, and then going from there, like, being really tight with your group of people, like, that you're playing with. So I guess that's kind of why it feels weird, because, like, oh, they're just, like, I've played against Floorman, Hydronation, or sorry, FPSL now, and some other teams too, and it's just like they've all mixed in some way or been on the teams with each other in some way. So it's just like, it doesn't feel really, I guess that's why it doesn't really feel as surreal to me, because it's like, guys, we gotta work on this together. But yeah.
okay. So again, I think Ranger's a better player. I think bringing in Ranger is not, like, a crazy roster move. But I just don't like this, like, talking out of both sides of your mouth thing, where it's like, it feels like what is being said publicly is not happening in reviews. Which is, like, again, we're in this like new age of like all these teams are going to be talking publicly, and like they're all streamers, and like esports is like developing in that way where a lot more is going to be in the public eye, especially like with scrims and stuff, is with the scene being this early on and stuff. But I just feel like Scout got pushed into a corner, got forced to play shit he doesn't play, and then they're like, oh well, we got to move on. And we have someone like Ranger just sitting here waiting, so we're going to go with Ranger. The other thing is, they need a coach now, okay? I don't know where they're going to find a coach, because there are very few people who are like down to coach Deadlock right now, because you don't get to play the game and get like, I don't know if they would split prize pool to coaches. I guess that's a team by team basis thing. But the other thing is, orgs aren't invested yet except for FPS Lounge. So if you're gonna coach, you're essentially doing it for like free, and that's why you see dudes like Lightbringer and like Pier and stuff like streaming, because they're just like, I just want to get paid in like some which way. Pier's actually getting paid by FPS Lounge, but it just feels like Melee Creeps made a big stink about what all these teams were doing, or like swapping, and like, you know, you need to build your team, and you need to be cohesive, you need to grow together and stuff. And then as soon as the game moves away from pick, they just kind of like tell Scout to play this other shit, which he did well on with the Dynamo games, right? He was like, I agree, I think the meta is bad right now, so I'm gonna start playing Dynamo. And he does well on the Dynamo. And then the meta changes again, and then they're like, we kind of think you should play like Frontline. We should kind of think you should play this. We kind of think. And I feel like Scout kind of just got pushed into this position where he's just playing shit he's not good at. And then the team's doing worse. And then in Scout's head, he's like, okay, but like, you know, we're going to grow. We're going to like figure this out together. And then he gets dropped after they lose to Florman. So my biggest complaint is just the like it feels like they're talking out both sides of their mouths with the Melee Creeps guys. I'm gonna be honest. It kind of felt like Scout just got scapegoated giga hard, and you know, who knows? It could be the right move. It really could be the right move, because like I said, I think Ranger's probably a better player than Scout if you want to do this. But it brings up the question of, did you ever actually believe that you were going to develop as a team and do that? And two, who's your coach going to be now? Because you need a coach. The top level teams need a coach. Like, maybe you guys think you don't, but I feel like you need a coach. Maybe some Overwatch guys will come over, or maybe some Dota guys. Like, who knows, right? But if I'm Scout, I want to join a top level team and play pick and play like Flex Spirit, and just kind of pop the fuck off now and just kind of show that I'm the one who got fucked over in this scenario for being a good teammate. And being like, okay, guys, let's try these new things. I'll try new heroes. I'll try a new role. I'll like, they were asking Scout to play frontline, support, and then like Flex Spirit, on top of him already being a really good pick player. Like, there are people who can play a lot of shit. Like Hoot's a good example of this. He can play a lot of stuff. But I think the expectations they pushed onto Scout were just so unbelievable to me. And then I feel like he got scapegoated. Like, I'm gonna be so real. And if I'm Scout and I'm hearing all the shit we're saying about growing together, like, my one question is, why is Scout not on the bench then? Why are we not like putting Scout on the bench and then trialing Ranger? And then if the Ranger thing doesn't go well and the game say like swaps back to pick, like, I think you can play pick now. I think pick's like pretty okay. Like Bebop and Paradox are pretty good heroes, right? And then we can like figure that out instead of Scout just getting dropped. So yeah, I don't know. That I just kind of wanted to talk about that because it felt very weird as someone who follows the scene like I do. Just like this felt really weird. This felt like a very, very weird scenario. But that's kind of my thoughts. I'm gonna make a YouTube video out of this, so you can watch the YouTube video. But it just felt like everyone kind of fell into the short-term thinking of what Scout was, when Scout was actually being a good teammate, trying to figure shit out with them, and then he just kind of got fucked over and got dropped for it. When Scout was playing the shit he plays, they were fucking dominating. and they were playing so well. And then, yeah, this felt very different from the DMB thing, because the DMB thing, it felt like there was internal strife going on, and DMB was like, he wants to play his shit and his heroes, so they're like, okay, we got to move on, bro. Which I think for a team environment thing, that's fine. That's a fine reason to move on from someone. But then for this shit to come in, and then they're talking publicly how they're not going to move on, and then they do move on, it feels like, again, it feels almost like PR. This goes from like a genuine thing that like I was talking about, to me it feels like PR, to be like, we're not going to drop anyone, we're not going to do this, and then as soon as they start losing, they do exactly what all the rest of the other teams are doing, and they just kind of like drop someone and bring up Ranger, which again, Ranger I think is better than Scout, but it just felt really weird. It just, as someone who follows the scene as close as I do, like listening to stuff like this, like it just felt really, really, really weird. So that's kind of my thoughts on this.